Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
Hey listeners, time for a What's Working in Ag segment, and a very timely one at that. It's time for us to find out what the role and approach is that we should be paying attention to these resistant either pests, diseases, plants, anything that we can take care of once we get into our post-herbicide patch. So I'm excited to have Jason Gibson here, the market development specialist from Corteva Agriscience, joining us in this What's Working in Ag segment. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, thank you for the invite today. Looking forward to visiting.
So what is a market development specialist at Corteva?
In the background, I provide technical support and technical training to a team of 8 territory managers that engage conversation and sales with retail partners that are in the chemical and fertilizer businesses.
So we're going to be talking chemistry today then?
A little bit, yep. Try to keep it so everybody can understand it, but yes, chemistry at the heart.
So do you have a background in chemistry, or what did it look like before you got into this role?
Yeah, so part of my college background is in pre-veterinary medicine, which would have involved quite a bit of chemistry, and then agronomy, and end up graduating with an agronomy degree.
Where'd you get that degree from?
Kansas State University in Manhattan, Kansas.
Well, today we can be friends, but as an Iowa State fan, we may not be exactly friends. Well, Dublin will be cool, right? Don't we get to play football in Dublin?
Yeah, I think so. Yep. Yeah, both programs are very good, and both I would say alums are very proud to be from either university.
Yeah, I got to share a box this last fall during the football season with some K-State fans, and they were nice, right? It was great to be competitive, but it was a lot of fun to get to meet some new people as well. But we're getting off topic. What's Working in Ag is supposed to help our listeners during their growing season. Today, we're going to focus on those infield threats, such as weeds, diseases, and insects, to make sure that we're defending ourselves from them becoming resistant. So what's that looking like, Jason? Are these 3 threats developing more resistance every year?
Yeah, unfortunately, the answer is yes. Both weeds, diseases, insects have become more resistant. Unfortunately, we tend to fall in love with the specific mode or site of action of chemistry and use it repeatedly throughout the season. And then when we get to an entirely different crop the following year, we're still in love with that chemistry that we apply it again. And with repetitive use, we end up with resistance. And we have a notable resistance across all 3 of those pests that you mentioned.
And I know previous conversations that we've had that there's been a program approach described. Is that still something that you think is the best way to approach resistance?
Yeah, think of a program approach as like a roadmap, helping you get to a destination efficiently and effectively. Or think about it as a blueprint to the construction of your ideal home that you're wanting to construct, making sure you have the right materials, the right flooring, the right cabinetry. What makes a program approach a bit more challenging, though, today is what you mentioned, is resistance. Making sure that in the heart of a program approach is using multiple effective modes or sites of action to manage those pests.
All right, Jason. So when this airs, we're going to have crops out of the ground already, and we're going to be looking at our first post-emergent passes. What do you have as advice for our listeners doing that?
Well, a couple of things are always important regardless of the pest. Timing is extremely important. Typically getting out either early or preventative tends to be often the best plan. Making sure you're putting some type of adjuvant, whether you're targeting weeds or diseases or insects, making sure you have some kind of adjuvant that helps provide the necessary spreading and coverage to effectively provide that control. But those are the 2 big things. Once we get into applying, for example, weed control, post-emerge, we want to make sure we're using at least 2, if not 3, multiple effective sites of action. In the case of weed control, if we're looking at insects or diseases, we're focused in again on using 2 to 3 multiple effective modes of action to manage both for weed control, insect disease control, but also for resistance management. And the key there is that they're each effective. We can purchase premixes today, like Corteva. Cairo is a great example in corn for weed control that combines 3 different sites of action that can be effective together to provide that necessary weed control, but also manage resistance. So we either want to purchase premixes with multiple effective sites of action, or we want to tank mix 2 to 3 products together to manage resistance, whether we're talking about weeds, insects, or diseases.
I was going to ask you, because that seems like quite a challenge, or at least a little bit of extra effort if I've got to try and mix 3 different actions together in my own tank. But it's nice to know that Corteva has thought through this and it now offers a packaged option.
Yeah, we have several things that we're packaging to make it simpler for the grower. Instead of having to tank mix separately, putting together premixes. Some of those more recent products in our weed portfolio for weed control would be our products like Cairo in corn or Kyber Pro in soybeans. Also in insects, we have products like Intrepid Edge, Ridgeback. And then with disease control, we have products like Viatude and Approach Prima. And again, those are combining multiple sites or multiple modes of action together to effectively give that grower not only the best results, but also more effective resistance to slow the spread of that development.
Yeah, here on Farm for Profit, we've uncovered a lot of things that seem to be very consistent to boost the bottom lines of producers. And it sounds like historically, fungicides have been one of those passes that typically pays dividends.
Yes, we see a lot of cases, whether we're applying Approach Prima in corn or our new Viatude fungicide in soybeans with those multiple effective modes of action, that we provide some plant health benefits as well to that crop, helping that plant mitigate drought and heat stress as an example, keeping that plant healthier, greener, deeper into the season, which helps us capture a bit more grain yield in the end. Even if we have no disease present, we see those benefits cascading into a positive ROI. Then if we have disease present, we're able to effectively control, in the case of Approach Prima, diseases like tar spot or Viatude, being able to suppress white mold in soybeans.
So are all fungicides created equal, or is that something our listeners should be paying attention to?
Great question. No, they're not all equal. One of the benefits we have of both Viatude and Approach Prima is they're powered by a Group 11 active ingredient called picoxystrobin Omira active. One of the things that is really neat about that particular active ingredient is the way that it moves within the plant. We get really good systemic activity to that new growth, not just the old growth, but to the new growth, as well as we move within the canopy and outside the canopy for more consistent control. The other thing that's really positive is with our products, we do typically have a labeled 1 hour rain fast period. So what that essentially means is we apply that product out there, it gets into that plant real quickly to start more immediately providing disease control. If we were having an unexpected rain event come across that field later in a short period of time, we're still going to be effective. While some other products take quite a bit longer to enter the plant, they're a lot more susceptible to wash off and inactivity. The other piece that we have in Nebraska as a specific, we have a lot of overhead irrigation, and it's not all that uncommon that a farmer applies a fungicide and within a few hours is calling, wanting to know if they can run their pivot because they're needing to keep up with the water demands. Again, having a 1 hour rain fast period has definitely some benefits for our products like Viatude, Approach Prima, and Approach.
Yeah, you mentioned pop-up showers. Even this spring already, we've seen the weather be unpredictable as far as that goes. I also feel like our insect pressure is going to be unpredictable as well. It seems like it's different every single year. So how do we prepare to fight back this year?
Yeah, scouting is really important for insects, much like diseases. You need to kind of understand those insect calendars when insects typically start to show up, and start scouting your fields to try to tackle these insects before they become problematic or exceed thresholds that justify insecticide applications. Much like our discussion on weeds and diseases, we want at least two effective modes of action, either in a premix or in a tank mix. And we have two outstanding insecticides. One of those being Intrepid Edge, which is a Group 5 and a Group 18 mode of action. Interesting enough, the Group 5 chemistry is the only Group 5 insecticide spinetoram that's recognized by the IRAC committee. And it is also something that's pretty special to Corteva, as we discovered it and developed it within our company.
Yeah.
That gives a customer the benefit of having two different modes of action in a premix to take care of some of those chewing pests like armyworm and loopers. We also have a more recent product called Ridgeback, which is a 3A and a 4C insecticide mode of action. So two modes of action, helping provide a broad spectrum of insect control. We can get things like Japanese beetle. We can control things like spider mites and soybean leaf aphids. So a very wide spectrum with that product, and yet manage some of the resistance we know we have, for example, with soybean aphids. That Group 4C helps us with that population out there that may have some resistance issues with other chemistries. That 4C is different than other 4C, Group 4 insecticides like neonicotinoids. There's no cross resistance between our Group 4C isoclact active and neonicotinoids. So if what might be resistant for a neonic, we can actively control with the 4C chemistry.
Well, Jason, there's been a lot of great information here in a very short amount of time, and that's the goal of our What's Working in Ag segments. Our listeners now know that there's a couple of key pieces of advice. No matter who your provider is of your chemistry, you still want to manage your infield threats. We're talking weeds, diseases, and insects with multiple modes of action. So I appreciate you, Jason, from Corteva Agriscience, jumping on here, explaining that those multiple mode of actions can be purchased pre-mixed already through Corteva dealers. If our listeners are interested in going that direction, how best do they find out to get questions answered or to find access to products?
Yeah, we're always accessible by visiting with your local retailer. You can get contact with our territory managers through your local retailer, also going out on the website and visiting corteva.us.
Awesome. That is a great conversation about what we're going to do post-emergence this year. Appreciate you taking the time to share your wisdom with us, Jason.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I enjoyed it. And hopefully I didn't overrun you on chemistry.
Oh, I love it. Thank you again.